So, has Joe Biden handed effectively the most important mineral on Earth? And, you know, through time, salt was the most important commodity. Gold was the most important commodity. For most of the last 50 years, oil has been the most important commodity, and indeed wars have been fought over it. But there's no doubt that if we're going green, the mineral of the 21st century is lithium. Has Joe Biden made a huge strategic blunder? Well, joining me now to discuss this is Larry McDonald, New York Times best-selling author, political and economic strategist, and somebody that talks to some of the biggest players and some of the biggest money around the world. Larry, welcome to GB News.
Nigel, great to be with you.
So lithium, I mean, just tell us, Larry, in terms of industry, in terms of meeting green targets, just how important is lithium?
Well, we run a Bloomberg chat with about 600 institutional investors around the world in about 23 countries. And over the last 6 months, we've been seeing, hedge fund after hedge fund, mutual funds, pension funds, all focused on green investments. Where's the trade? And the one point that is constantly made is the Politburo in China. They don't look out a month. They don't look out a year. They look 10, 20 years out. And there's 1 billion people in China without an automobile. 1 billion human beings without an automobile. Annual car sales in the electric vehicle space are running about 2 million now. The current fleet of automobiles in China is about 300 million. So you're looking at about 50 million of sales in 10 years from now in electric vehicles. Okay, electric vehicle sales. So you're talking about a tremendous amount of lithium, and China is mowing everybody's lawn right now because they're looking 10 years out and they're capturing the best assets on the planet.
What does this, why has Joe Biden done this? Given that it was a US geological survey, given that the US Defense Department, said back in 2010 that Afghanistan was the Saudi Arabia of lithium, and given its importance, particularly given the emphasis that Biden has put on going green, was that simply not a consideration when it came to his announcing a unilateral withdrawal from Afghanistan?
Well, when you talk to analysts around the street, there are current reserves in South America, in Africa, in the Congo region that will get us by the next couple of years. But, with that 10-year view, I think, unfortunately, politicians in the United States, they are, it's 4-year terms. They're looking short term. And at the end of the day, the Democratic Party has some very altruistic, beautiful goals in some respects. But a lot of times there's just not a lot of deep thought that goes into them. And many times they're not mathematically sustainable. And they oftentimes hurt the middle class, as you saw with oil over the last 12 months. Yeah. This is a perfect example of something where, middle class people in the United States, they're going to need to buy electric vehicles. And by the time U.S. sales really start taking off, China is going to be capturing much of the elements around the world with their Belt and Road initiatives. They've been this Afghanistan thing is old. It's kind of old news in the sense that they have been moving into territories around the planet for like the last year and a half and making very long-term investments where U.S. presidents look, 4 years at a time.
Yeah, we've seen this in China, haven't we, with the Belt and Road Initiative, whether it's uranium, whether it's cobalt. They are very, very good at ensuring they get long-term supplies. Larry, I must also ask you, as somebody there in New York and very involved in current affairs, I've noticed in the last 24 hours that even CNN, and on the CNN website, a news organization who almost thought that Biden was, well, not quite the second coming, but certainly was a wonderful man after that nasty, horrible chap from Trump Tower. I've noticed even the US media of all shades, they're beginning to turn on Biden, aren't they?
Well, we hosted a call this morning with institutional investors. We have the Bear Traps Report conference call, and we had 6 different questions about, has President Biden ruptured his power to the point where the stimulus and this infrastructure bill in terms of it passing through Congress. You need both, you need both parties here to work on this bill. It was considered a slam dunk. And institutional investors, I saw this morning in the questions, are clearly saying like there's a worry that Biden's skill set was supposed to be the great communicator in terms of bringing people together, not exactly in terms of speeches, but he was supposed to be that person that really brings both parties together. And that whole thesis has been ruptured this week. And if that's the case, then the infrastructure bill's in some trouble. And if you look at the trades in the market this week, Nigel, some of the trades like solar stocks and some of the trades that are very sensitive to the infrastructure bill clearly have been underperforming. So that tells you that, yes, there's a lot of political damage that's been done.
And can you understand, Larry, why there are voices now in the UK and in Europe too, who are saying that what Biden has done is to give us a very big risk, and indeed one of the MI5 bosses said that jihadis that are living within our country will be emboldened by what has happened with the Taliban in Afghanistan, let alone the kind of refugee flow that we might see coming towards Europe. Do you understand why we're beginning to feel really very, very let down by America? And frankly, the question I think is being asked here now is how can we trust America all the while it's being led by this president?
Yeah, that's the problem is going forward, foreign policy, once you take the pressure off some of the bad guys, you just have a proliferation of problems. I mean, we haven't, you remember like 2010, 11, 12, 15, there were a lot more terrorist attacks globally that were very high profile. And, you just had Jihad John, you had, people in cages with fires. You had a lot of these public displays of terror. And the last 4 years, that's gone by the wayside. And now around the world, people are looking at the United States and looking at that power vacuum and saying, okay, will the bad guys make a move here? Has the Biden administration opened the door to aggressive behavior on the part of bad players in the world?
Yeah, no, I have to say, that's our worry. Our worry is it's been quiet for a few years, and our worry is will we start to see that sort of horrible terrorist activity again. Larry McDonald, thank you for joining us.